Hi, it's Bob Perkins with the AAISP. Welcome back to Elevate. I'm here with Gabe Villamazar.
That's right.
Gabe, it's great to have you today.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here and look forward to it.
Gabe is the Social Selling Director at HireVue. And for those of you that may not be familiar with Gabe, could you give us a brief intro?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been doing sales for the past 8 years of my life, and then the past 3 years or so, I joined InsideSales.com, and I used to be a BDR, SDR. I did that for a certain amount of time, and then I realized that I could use social selling, and I was killing it with my numbers. And Ken Krogh pulled me aside. He's like, "What is it that you're doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just using, cold calling, cold emailing, and using LinkedIn and Twitter to actually accelerate the whole sales process." So that got me into social selling and social selling coaching, and did that for a while, for a year and a half or two, and then recently joined HireVue last year.
That's great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get some of these tips.
Oh, I'm excited.
Great. Let's start with, fiction or reality.
Mm-hmm.
Social selling was kind of the buzzword several years ago,
Yeah.
and there's still some skeptics out there.
Right.
Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, and there's a lot of skeptics because it's new, but at the end of the day, I highly recommend that you try it out and don't go all deep on trying it. For those people who are still doubting and having questions about it, don't start out with a small pilot. Why not start it out small with 5 reps or so, and make sure that you have specific KPIs. Make sure you have specific measurements that you can report on, so that way you can see, okay, is this working, yes or no? Based on the data, right? Because the data will always trump intuition. Then you can move on and decide if you're going to implement it to the whole organization.
Sure. And if there's some viewers out there that maybe they're kind of new to managing inside sales, or
Mm-hmm.
they're going to start a team, and they really know nothing about social selling, could you give them a tip on where they might start? The first thing they may do to kind of get exposed to social selling?
Yeah, the first thing they may do is actually have a buy-in from your leadership. Because what happens is there's so much content on the internet and on social media, and you see and read a lot of those articles like how to do social selling, how to close deals on LinkedIn and Twitter, and then reps start applying all these tips, and sales leaders are only measuring how many dials are you doing per day, how many activity are you doing per contact, and if they see that you're not doing the things they want you to do, then you get fired.
Yeah.
So get a buy-in from the leadership first. Once you get a buy-in, then start implementing by just optimizing all your social media channels.
Sure, and I'm glad you brought that buy-in up from the leadership, because we hear a lot of leaders and reps. They say, I'm not so sure. Should my inside sales reps be spending, whatever, an hour, 90 minutes a day, kind of on social sites, and is it really productive?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on, maybe time allotment and where and when they should be spending time in the social selling process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at HireVue specifically, we do about 70, 30, 60, 40. 60% traditional prospecting, meaning emailing, phone calling, and other traditional prospecting methods. And then 30 to 40% of the day is done through social selling. But at the same time, we mix them together. You don't want a lot of sales reps that I deal with on one-on-one and teach groups. They always think, oh, social selling, that means I don't have to call anymore. That means I don't have to email anymore. And that's the worst approach you could take.
Okay.
You are going to get yourself fired.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the approach of integrating, right, and weaving in your social selling methodologies or strategies into your existing sales process to accelerate the whole sales process.
Can you point to an example of doing that? What might it look like?
Yeah. So for example, let's say I'm trying to sell to Nike. And CEB has actually done data research and said that not only you have to deal with one buyer, but 5.4 is usually in the B2B space.
Sure.
Actually, Nike's not a good example. It's not B2B. Let's go with I'm trying to sell to Salesforce.
Sure.
If I want to really sell my product or service to Salesforce, I would identify 6 of the influential buying decision makers. So that would be my first step. Then I would connect with them on LinkedIn. Okay? And you never, ever, ever pitch or try to close on your first interaction. Okay? It's like asking your first girl on a date, and then, hey, you want to marry me? And she's like, I don't even know you. I mean, you're wearing a hat backwards or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So my point.
Do you know you are wearing your hat backwards?
Oh no,
Okay,
no.
yeah,
Okay,
no.
there we go. So you never want to go for the kill in the first,
Yeah.
in the shot. That's what I like to call it. So, first of all, connect and always try to educate, not sell. Build a relationship, but you don't want to stay in the friend zone too long.
What might that, what might that sharing of value or sharing content look like in a first connection?
That's a great question. So once I've identified my 6 decision makers or buyer personas who I want to go after at Salesforce, for example, then what I want to do is I want to look into what they're sharing. Look into Google, what's going on with Salesforce? What awards have they won? What pain points are they doing? You can do that through Twitter. You can do that through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You can do that through the LinkedIn paid free version, actually, and see what they're sharing. What have they raised money? Have they acquired any new companies? So kind of find trigger events that you can educate and see. For example, hey, Salesforce, notice that you guys are doing a partnership with Microsoft. We have helped companies like Microsoft get these type of results. We'd love to chat to show you if it makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
So try to educate by finding trigger events.
And then the whole relationship thing, talk to us about that a little bit. What ways could a rep sort of nurture a relationship via either social media or even through LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I would follow then somebody on a decision maker on Salesforce. Let's just call him Mike Jones, and then I would find content that he or she have been sharing, or content that might be relevant to that person, and I would either tag him on Twitter, and don't make it too obvious that you're just sharing that because you want to close a deal, but also what you want to do is share also on LinkedIn. So try to maneuver both LinkedIn and Twitter in the B2B space, and try to share educational content, valuable content. And if they're not on Twitter, then usually that's why you have 6 people you work with.
Okay.
So one of them, at least 2 or 3 of them, will be on Twitter, guaranteed.
Good. Good pointers there. Let's switch gears a little bit to somebody's profile, and even reflecting back on your career, when you said you were with InsideSales.com, did you have a LinkedIn profile? I'm sure you did. What was it like? How do you develop a profile that can relate to prospects?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have usually 10 tips. I'm not going to go over all of those in details, but for example, my name is Gabriel, but when I came to the United States, that's a female name, right? So it could go both female and male. So I'm like, well, I don't want people to call me Gabrielle, right? So then I'm like, so people start calling me Gabe, and I'm like, what the heck is Gabe? And I'm like, oh, that's short for Gabriel. So then when I tell people on the phone, hey, my name is Gabe or Gabriel, whatever you tell people you are on the phone or via email, you want to make sure that's the exact same name that you want in every social media profile. So that way when the search engine or Google or whichever bot is crawling your site, it connects that name is associated to the same person throughout every social media network. So optimize your name, optimize your job title. You quantify, use keywords, optimize your location, make sure people don't know what Orem or Provo, Utah is. People know what Salt Lake City is. Okay. That's where HireView and InsideSales.com are. So wherever you are, try to assign yourself to the main city that people know where you are. And then also make sure you have a completed profile 100%. I cannot emphasize how many people just say, okay, I open my LinkedIn, my Twitter, and I'm done. And they do the least amount of time and the least amount of effort to complete it. Complete as much as you can, quantify, and more data than instead qualitative data on your profile.
You really brought up a good point about where you live. I used to live in Apple Valley, Minnesota, and people go, "Where's that?"
Exactly.
I go, well, it's south of St. Paul or Minneapolis,
exactly.
so I'm going to go change my profile.
There you go. Yes,
to not Gold Canyon, Arizona, but Phoenix, Arizona.
There you go.
I like that. Good tip. What about the use of posting of content or relevant information on your LinkedIn site? Can you comment on that at all?
Yeah, so there's a lot of free and paid tools that you can use for that. One of my favorites is Buffer app. Those are usually like $15 a month. If you get a business license, maybe like $1,000 or X amount of money per year. There's also Hootsuite. There's a ton, but I like specifically Buffer because I like to schedule content in advance throughout the whole day. So as a rule of thumb, I say do 5 tweets per day, schedule 5 tweets per day, and do 2 LinkedIn posts per day. Out of those 5 tweets, 3 of those or 4 of those should be non-sales. They should be third-party content for the industry that you're in. And then one of those, or the last one, can be either a webinar or kind of sales-oriented to the product or service you're selling. And on LinkedIn, I like to say out of those 2 per day, I usually like to do one that's non-sales related and one that's sales related.
Good tips. I like the you put some quantifiable numbers to that. Not one every 2 weeks, but 5 a day. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And people are like, oh well, Gabe, I'm gonna have so many people unfollow me. Well, the people who unfollow you are not the people you want on your network. I mean, if you're really gonna try to social sell, my mom's gonna be like, Gabe, why are you posting so much of this? I'm like, Mom, this network's not designed for you. Or the people who might get mad at you, those are not the people you're trying to go after, right?
Yeah.
There's certain networks for certain things. That's why I like to keep my favorite B2B channels are Twitter and LinkedIn.
So your mom does follow you on Twitter then?
No.
Like no.
Yeah, she used to, not anymore, but she's on Facebook, and I'm like, holy crap, what's going on?
Okay, all right. So you keep your Facebook page.
I recommend keep your Facebook to your family and close friends.
Yeah.
And then your professional networks, LinkedIn, Twitter, and there's a lot of other ones. But
you mentioned earlier you had a lot of success at one of your jobs in InsideSales.com as a sales rep, and even kind of recognized by Ken Krogh as, what are you doing? Give us a story or an example about how social helped you to connect and close a sale.
Yeah, that's a great question. So from my experience, I came out with a methodology. It's a 7-step process. And so number 1, it's a Steve Richards coined this, the 3x3, and I like to call it 3x3 social research.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know what that is, and shout out to Steve Richards from Warsight BP, find 3 things about your buyer in 3 minutes or less that are relevant, that are going to help you get your foot through on the door with that candidate. So once you identify that, then you want to listen for certain keywords. So what is it that they're going through? Where are they at in the buying process? After I would listen and see what can I put in my message, I would connect with the buyer. And are they on Twitter? If they're on Twitter, I follow them. If they're on Twitter, then the next day, then I would tweet at them. Hey, notice that I read this article and thought you guys might like it.
Nice.
As soon as I get any sort of engagement on Twitter or LinkedIn on any type of content I'm sharing directly, that's my cue, or that's my green light to tell me, hey, call me. If they don't engage, I just keep trying. So Ken Krogh says, be pleasantly persistent.
Sure, yeah.
So if you're pleasantly persistent, you will get through the right person, but you don't be a stalker.
Yeah.
Okay, with so much data and with so much social data out there, it's easy to be weird online and appear like a total stalker weirdo. With that data, there comes a lot of responsibility, and be smart about it. Be human, as if you were talking face to face with people.
Good. Some really good thoughts. I appreciate your sharing your ideas with us.
Yeah.
Gabe, you mentioned the 7 steps. You have 10 tips. Do you have a blog, or is there anywhere some of the viewers, if they wanted to learn more about, these steps, 10 steps, 7 steps, anywhere they could go to learn more, or how to get in touch with you to learn more that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so number 1, I created an online course, an e-course. It's called embedsocialselling.com. And again, that's embed, E-M-B-E-D, socialselling.com. A lot of people kept asking, hey, Gabe, I want to pick your brain, and I have a hard time. I'm learning how to say no. So instead of saying no, I'm like, why don't I just make an online course?
Perfect.
So it's just, right now the first module's free, and then if you want the whole course, it's $2.99. But it's been great, and if not, connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn, and we can start a relationship and seeing how we can help each other. Yeah,
good. Some really good practical and actionable tips that you shared. Now, our viewers are here today in part to really look ahead to 2016. Many of them, they want to beat their quota, beat the number from this year, 2015. They want 16 to raise the level a little bit. So share, what you feel, even in your own selling and your own social media work that you're doing. What are you going to do to raise that bar, 20, 30% next year? And what could you share with the audience that's important?
Great question. So I want to be able to track and say, how many tweets did it take for me to get a hold of this decision maker? How many LinkedIn messages did it take for me to get a hold of them? So I want to say, okay, I want to be able to create a predictable social revenue model where I say it's going to take us 3 phone calls, 2 emails, 4 tweets, and 2 LinkedIn messages to get a hold of this person, because of buyer persona, right, have through data have told us so. So I've been capturing all this data at HireVue for the past year, and I want to create that predictive model so that way we're able to track it in Salesforce or whichever CRM you're using, and that way you can say, okay, not only we're going to track how many dials you use and how many emails, but hey, how many people are you connecting with on a daily basis? How many people are you sharing messages with, inbound messages and outbound messages through whatever network? So that's going to be a game changer if you can prove that model, and if we're able to do that at HireVue, and that's what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah, it's a good goal. It's a lofty goal, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there, a lot of the viewers that maybe they've tried social a little bit. Maybe they've posted some things, they've done some tweeting and so on and so forth, and maybe they've given up, right? I mean, I got to imagine when you first started, there was quite a bit of work. Did you see immediate results? Is there something you can share about, hey, don't give up, stick it out, right? Go for the long run?
Absolutely. So you have to be very disciplined. We tend to give up very easily if we don't get instant gratification, especially with technology out there and the way we go through the drive-thru, we want our food in 30 seconds. We put money in a vending machine. We want things very, very fast. If their internet slows down for 20 seconds, we say this internet sucks. So we want to make sure that you're disciplined and consistent. Those results won't happen overnight. But and what I mean overnight, so how long is it going to take? Well, it all depends on which industry you're in, who's your buyer, and where they're at in the buying funnel or the sales funnel. But for example, it might take you a few days to get a hold of that person, and then in another 2 or 3 more days, you're in the door.
Good. And then finally, any trends that you're seeing around social selling that you'd like to mention, in the future? What is it going to look like? Is it going to evolve?
Yeah, a trend that I like to see, it's again that model of predictability. And I read the Predictable Revenue with Aaron Ross, and if you can be able to predict that, then what's going to happen is we're going to be able to sell in a way that is going to help the buyer be at the right time at the right place. But so by listening for the right cues, we're going to be able to close more deals, salespeople, and it's not going to be interruption marketing. It's going to be more like a pleasant, and it's going to be a lot smoother, and that's the way it's heading. It's going to be, the more technology evolves, the faster. It's always been that the seller is always behind the buyer. It's gonna come level, and because of all the data that's available out there. That's
great. The seller has been behind the buyer, and social. Some of your tips can help even that playing field a little bit.
Absolutely.
Well, Gabe, it's been great. I can see you have a lot of passion for social selling.
Yeah, I do.
We really applaud you for that. You're kind of a fresh pioneer in this space.
With the hat backwards too. So.
I like it. It makes you stand out. I may start wearing my hat like that.
There you go. I'll give you one. Yeah.
Let me try it on.
Okay, there you go. I love it, man. This is gonna go viral.
What do you think?
That's it.
Everybody.
That's your new LinkedIn picture.
Well, thanks so much,
No,
and I look forward
awesome.
to working with you in the future. Together we're helping advance the profession of inside sales. It's a great time, and thanks for all you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
All right.